Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Chapter by chapter book summary. Part 1, The Birthday. Chapter 1. On the morning of his 16th birthday, Hamish Abernathy is woken by his younger brother Sid. His birthday falls on Reaping Day, the dreaded event when one boy and one girl from each district are chosen to compete in the Hunger Games. After greeting his mother, Hamish leaves early for work so he can meet his girlfriend Lenore Dove before the ceremony. He works for Hattie Mine, a bootlegger who secretly produces white liquor. Hattie allows him to leave ahead of schedule, and even gifts him a bottle for his birthday. Hamish doesn't drink though, and he plans to trade it instead. He goes to see Lenore Dove in the meadow, where she tends to her geese. The two first met when Hamish was 10 years old, after he and his friend Burdock Everdeen sneaked into the woods and stumbled upon her sitting in a tree. Lenore is part of the Covey, a group once known for traveling and performing music, but who after the dark days were forced into districts and restricted from wandering. Though confined to District 12, her people still sing and perform. Hamish finds her softly singing a tune about the way the rich and powerful exploit those less fortunate, and he worries that her fondness for rebellious songs could eventually get her in trouble. The pair embrace and speak about the upcoming games, which are even grimmer this year because it is a quarter quell, held every 25 years with special twists. This time, twice as many tributes will be chosen. Lenore dreams aloud of a world without Reaping Day, and Hamish dismisses the idea as impossible. She presents him with a birthday gift, a flint striker shaped like a bird and a snake forming a C. When her uncle Clark Carmine comes to take her home, they part reluctantly to prepare for the ceremony. Hamish's mother threads a lace through the striker so he can wear it around his neck, and Hamish heads into town. He trades the bottle of liquor at the apothecary, where Astrid March pays him, and he teases her about her interest in his friend Burdock. With some of the money, he buys Lenore's favorite treat gumdrops, from the Donner family's shop. At the Reaping, Drusilla Sickle draws the girls' names. Luella McCoy, a 13-year-old Hamish has known all his life, and Maisily Donner, the sweet shop owner's daughter. Hamish is shocked that Maisily, who he considers proud and privileged, was selected despite never having to enter her name extra times for food. Before he can feel relieved that Lenore's name wasn't chosen, the boys' names are drawn. Wyatt Callow and Woodbine chance. When Woodbine attempts to flee, a peacekeeper immediately shoots him down. Chapter 2. Because the broadcast is delayed by 5 minutes, peacekeepers have time to remove Woodbine's body before the cameras return live. Hamish is horrified when he notices Lenore trying to comfort Woodbine's grieving mother, who struggles with a peacekeeper over her son's remains. Rushing to help, Hamish intercepts a rifle but aimed at Lenore. As retribution, the officials declare that he will replace Woodbine as tribute. Lenore protests, but Drusilla Sickle orders the peacekeepers to kill her on the spot. Before they can, Plutarch Heavensby, who assigned to cover District 12's tributes, intervenes. He argues that Lenore should be spared, as her sorrowful farewell will boost the broadcast's drama and attract viewers. Drusilla agrees, insisting Hamish pretend his name was drawn in order to maintain the illusion for the cameras. The 4 tributes are informed they won't be allowed to say goodbye to their families because of the disruption. However, Plutarch need more reaction shots, singles out Hamish and Luella. He tries to make Luella's parents reenact their grief from earlier, but they refuse, and she is quickly led away. Plutarch then turns to Hamish's family, pressuring them into staging a false reaction as though they just heard his name. He forces Hamish's mother and brother through multiple takes, until Hamish begs him to stop. At last, he bids a brief farewell and hand over the money he earned that morning. He entrusts Sid with the gumdrops to deliver to Lenore. Soon after, Hamish is escorted onto the train. Through the window he catches sight of Lenore, weeping alone on a hillside. His heart breaks, yet he feels relieved that their parting won't be turned into capital entertainment. Chapter 3. Sitting alone in his train compartment, Hamish grieves for Lenore Dove and the family he was forced to leave behind. Eventually, Plutarch comes to fetch him and leads him to the car where the other tributes are waiting. Though Hamish remains suspicious of Plutarch's motives, he decides it is wiser to stay on his good side, since he spared Lenore's life and gave Haymitch a final moment with his loved ones. Wanting to reassure Luella, with whom he has shared a bond since she declared herself his sweetheart as a child, he asks if she will ally with him. Haymitch then turns his attention to the others. Wyatt appears physically strong, though Haymitch cannot yet read his character. As for Maisily, he dismisses her as someone who has always acted superior to the rest of them. When Plutarch reappears with sandwiches, Maisily insists on proper plates and utensils, pushing his attendant until they are provided. The tributes are then taken to view the reapings from the other districts, alongside Plutarch and Drusilla. Plutarch mentions they will have the chance to prepare with their mentor before the games, though Haymitch recalls that District 12 has no living victors and therefore no automatic mentors. Their district has produced only one champion, but she is never spoken of, and no footage of her games exists. Haymitch had once tried to ask Lenore about the mysterious victor, but she never wished to discuss her. When their own reaping plays back on the screen, Haymitch is struck by how carefully the footage has been edited. Plutarch admits he manipulated the narrative to improve their chances of attracting sponsors. The realization leaves Haymitch resentful, fully aware that they are being packaged as products for capital amusement. As though to emphasize his point, an attendant suddenly enters carrying a birthday cake. Chapter 4. Noticing the hidden camera aimed at his reaction, Haymitch refuses to acknowledge the cake. He recalls his father once telling a tribute not to let them use you, not to let them paint their posters with your blood. His mother repeated those same words before he was taken away. Determined not to give the capital the moment they want, Haymitch turns his back. Plutarch apologizes for the misstep, which surprises Haymitch, since capital citizens rarely say sorry, though he assumes it is just another tactic to win him over for better footage. Plutarch then explains that each district will be assigned a stylist. When Drusilla makes a sneering comment about District 12's fashion, Maisily mocks her in return. Drusilla slaps her, only for Maisily to strike her back and warn her never to touch her again. Furious, Drusilla tries to whip her with a riding crop, and attendants must pull her away. Later, the four tributes are shown to a sleeper car. Luella and Wyatt fall asleep quickly, but Haymitch lies awake, clutching his striker and thinking of Lenore. When Maisily, also unable to sleep, asks to see it, Haymitch refuses. He remembers how, on her 13th birthday, she had rejected a gold mockingjay pin made by the covey, calling the bird ugly. A slight that had deeply upset Lenore at the time. Out of loyalty to his girlfriend, Haymitch keeps the striker to himself. In the middle of the night, Luella wakes him to say she doesn't want Wyatt as an ally, pointing out that he is the son of a booker boy, people who gamble on the Hunger Games. Haymitch agrees with her concern. The next morning, when they arrive in the capital, the group watches four tributes disembark from District 1's carriage. To everyone's surprise, Wyatt immediately rattles off detailed information about each of them, then declares that whether they like him or not, it's a sure bet they need him. Chapter 5. Wyatt clarifies that he isn't a booker boy, but an oddsmaker, someone who calculates probabilities for bets rather than placing them himself. While they wait on the platform, Haymitch notices capital propaganda posters plastered around with slogans like, "No peace, no prosperity," and "No Hunger Games, no peace." He is struck by the fact that the capital must persuade its own citizens with the same kind of messaging used in the districts. The tributes are bound and taken to the tribute center, where they are split by gender and directed to showers. A peacekeeper asks if the striker necklace is his token, a keepsake each tribute is permitted to carry into the arena. Haymitch claims it is and silently hopes no one realizes its true function, since tokens are not supposed to provide any real advantage. After bathing, they are given sheets of crepe paper to wrap themselves in before returning to the gym. Soon after, Haymitch meets his prep team, two university students named Proserpina and Vitus, who inform him that Magno Stift will once again serve as District 12 stylist. Haymitch groans inwardly, since Stift always recycles the same dull coal miner overalls for his tributes year after year. Once the students leave, Haymitch's thoughts turn to Lenore. He worries she will eventually push things too far with her rebellious streak. She has already been arrested twice, once for cutting down the hangman's rope the night before an execution, and another time for burning a flag during her first reaping day. Both times she escaped punishment for lack of evidence, but Haymitch is certain she was guilty. When Magno finally arrives, he predictably brings the same tattered minor outfits, brushing off Drusilla's complaints by sneering that nobody cares about 12. The 4 tributes are unshackled and guided to a battered chariot. Haymitch notices that every other district has been dressed in striking costumes, while they look pathetic in comparison. As the crowd jeers and jeers, Luella begins to panic, and Haymitch does his best to calm her. But chaos erupts when someone in the drunken crowd throws a firework in front of their horses, spooking them and triggering a massive chariot crash. To Haymitch's horror, Luella is killed in the wreck. Chapter 6. Maisily gently places one of her necklaces on Luella's body, explaining that she had planned to give it to her as a token from home. When peacekeepers start toward them to collect the body, Haymitch snatches it up and bolts, unwilling to let them touch her. As he runs, he notices a District 1 tribute trying to drive his horse forward, clearly hoping to be the first to arrive before President Snow. Inspired, Haymitch seizes both the idea and the chariot, steering it to arrive ahead of the others. He stops before Snow, who regards him with a cold smirk, unfazed. Haymitch lays Luella's body at Snow's feet and begins to clap mockingly, as if to credit Snow with the spectacle. Peacekeepers quickly drag him away, but not before he hears capital citizens shouting their eagerness to sponsor him. Later, Maisily finds him sprawled on the street and tells him he made a strong statement, that District 12 should not be underestimated. Wyatt joins them, remarking that their odds have improved thanks to the crash, which injured tributes from District 6 and District 10. The comment sparks an argument between him and Haymitch about treating people as mere numbers. Maisily sides with Wyatt, and the two walk away, leaving Haymitch stewing. Not long after, a 12-year-old from District 3 named Ampert approaches Haymitch, asking to be allies. The boy explains that he is assembling a group to rival the careers from Districts 1, 2, and 4, who traditionally dominate by forming an alliance. Ampert says he already has support from Districts 3, 7, and 8, and that District 11 is considering joining. Though touched by the offer, Haymitch feels his days of alliances ended with Luella, and he declines. Later, Haymitch, Wyatt, and Maisily are brought to their quarters and introduced to their mentors. First is Wyrus, the eccentric victor from District 3 who won the previous games by exploiting a reflective arena's blind spot. Haymitch is dismayed that she, someone so peculiar and non-violent, is supposed to guide them. His mood shifts when Mags from District 4 enters. The older woman greets them warmly, opening her arms to Haymitch. She expresses her sorrow over Luella, and in that moment, Haymitch breaks down, collapsing into her embrace and sobbing. Chapter 7. Still weeping, Haymitch is gently directed by Mags to take a bath. When he comes out, she offers him a bowl of bean and ham stock soup, the traditional morning dish in District 12. The simple gesture leaves him deeply moved. The following morning at breakfast, Mags and Wyrus ask each of them what they hope to gain from the games, aside from survival. Haymitch admits he wants a quick death, so Lenore Dove and his family won't have to suffer long, watching him die. Wyatt agrees, saying he doesn't want his death dragged out for the profit of gamblers. Maisily declares that she refuses to beg for her life, and wants to die with her head held high. Haymitch adds that he would like to end the Hunger Games altogether, by proving that tributes are no different from capital citizens, though he doubts he has the cleverness to outwit the arena. Wyrus and Mags seize on this thought, telling him that the arena is merely a machine, one that can be outsmarted, ideally in a way that would be captured on camera. Still, they caution that attempting such a thing would be dangerous, and could place both him and his allies in jeopardy. Haymitch then tells them about Ampert's proposed alliance, and says he will vouch for them despite his initial hesitation. The mentors offer practical advice. Securing water should be the top priority, and alliances are useful because someone must stand guard while others sleep. They send the group to the training center, encouraging them to pay attention to their surroundings, since activities there sometimes hint at what the arena will hold. On their way to the gym, Haymitch, Maisily, and Wyatt agree to make themselves into loose cannons who demand respect. They practice knife throwing, and Haymitch begins talking with Ringina, a girl from District 7, when Panache, the boy from District 1 whose chariot Haymitch commandeered, suddenly punches him in the ribs. Haymitch and Ringina consider fighting back, but ultimately hold off. While they are discussing their choice, Plutarch appears and pointedly asks why they didn't retaliate. Chapter 8. Plutarch presses the question further, asking why they allow themselves to submit to it all, the peacekeepers, the games, the executions. Haymitch's only reply is that resistance would mean death. To his surprise, Plutarch extends the question to himself as well, asking aloud why he and everyone else still obey President Snow. Haymitch realizes that Plutarch is not mocking them, but genuinely wrestling with the question. Plutarch then apologizes, telling Haymitch the broadcast was cut just before the firework exploded during the parade, which means no one actually saw his act of defiance with Luella. He tries to express sympathy for Haymitch's loss, but Haymitch coldly brushes him off. Later, Haymitch introduces Wyatt and Macely to Ampert. The boy instantly warms to them, especially to Macely, who uses her skill at braiding to create him a token. Ampert then takes Haymitch to meet his father, BT, the victor from District 3. BT, punished for trying to sabotage the capital's communication system, is being forced to prepare his son for the games. He demonstrates how to build a small battery from a potato to produce light. Haymitch, sympathetic to BT's situation and sensing his hidden bitterness toward the capital, asks in a roundabout way how someone could disable the arena itself. Speaking in code, BT replies that one only needs to disconnect part of a circuit to compromise a machine. Before dismissing him, BT slips a packet of coins and nails into Haymitch's hand, tools to make a battery once inside the arena. At lunch, tributes from Districts 12, 3, 7, 8, and 10 sit together while Ampert lays out his plan. He argues that the careers win far too often for their numbers, since they make up only a quarter of the field. His idea is for the other districts to form a coalition, and hunt the careers down instead of being hunted by them. With 5 districts already committed, Haymitch strengthens their numbers further by inviting the 2 frightened and injured tributes from District 6, who have been targeted by the careers. They decide they need a name to rally under, just as the careers have one. Haymitch proposes the newcomers, a District 12 phrase, Ned Die newcomer, used for someone just starting out. The others agree, and Macely helps her fellow newcomers by crafting small tokens for them. Training eventually concludes, and a van arrives to return the tributes to their apartments. However, Haymitch is instructed to step out. Waiting for him is Plutarch, who explains that President Snow reconsidered his performance, and now wishes to meet him. Chapter 9. Plutarch escorts Haymitch through a grand manor, which he reveals is his own family's estate. In the library, he offers Haymitch a drink, which he declines. While looking around, Haymitch spots a bottle of Nepenthe, recognizing it from the poem that inspired Lenore Dove's name. Each Covey name derives from a poem or song paired with a color, and this one comes from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Plutarch is impressed by Haymitch's knowledge, and Haymitch lies that everyone in District 12 is familiar with it. Plutarch then brings him into the conservatory, where President Snow is waiting. Haymitch observes that Snow appears unwell, and almost immediately the man begins coughing up blood. He is carried back to the library and requests milk to ease the symptoms. Plutarch sends Haymitch to fetch it, but in an act of rebellion, Haymitch drinks the milk himself and claims the pitcher is empty. Realizing what Haymitch has done, Plutarch discreetly covers for him and retrieves milk from elsewhere. Snow explains that his illness is not from natural causes, but from the poison he used to assassinate the parade master responsible for the disastrous opening ceremony. He then asks to see Haymitch's flint striker. Turning it over, he notices the inscription. 4H. I love you like all fire. LD displaying surprising knowledge of Covey traditions, Snow speculates about which color the D represents, leaving Haymitch stunned. Snow then cruelly tells him that it is fortunate he was reaped, because Lenore does not truly love him. Snow goes on to declare that Haymitch must die in the arena as punishment for his actions, though his family will be spared. The way he dies will depend on his conduct. Good behavior will earn him a swift death, while defiance will result in the slowest, most painful death ever inflicted on a tribute. Finally, Snow says he has a belated birthday gift for Haymitch, and calls for someone to enter the room. To Haymitch's shock, Luella appears in the doorway. Part 2, The Rascal. Chapter 10. The girl standing in the doorway looks identical to Luella, yet Haymitch instantly knows she isn't her. She lacks Luella's essence. That's when he realizes the footage of the chariot crash was never broadcast, and that Snow had the parade master killed. The Capitol only needs to convince the few witnesses who saw it happen that Luella survived. Now it falls to Haymitch, and this imitation Luella, to maintain the illusion. Plutarch escorts them back to the tribute apartments, guessing the child is most likely the daughter of a traitor, drugged and conditioned to impersonate Luella until she inevitably dies in the games. When Haymitch brings her inside, the others are horrified. They decide to call her Lulu, and soon realize she is from District 11, because she cries at the sight of crescent-shaped bread rolls unique to her district. Mags notices she has a device implanted that constantly pumps drugs into her, and warns them that removing it could kill her. Together, Wyris, Mags, Haymitch, Macely, and Wyatt discuss their next moves, then the three tributes retire to bed. Later that night, Haymitch hears a sound outside his room and discovers the power is out. In the common area, he finds BT using a potato battery. BT explains Wyris cut the power, and they only have 10 minutes before anyone notices. He asks if Haymitch is serious about destroying the arena. When Haymitch says he is, BT reveals his plan to flood it. Chapter 11. BT explains that the arena works like a computer, and beneath the northern section lies a massive water tank. If it is ruptured, the tank will flood the system and destroy the computers in Sub-A. Haymitch's task will be to find a mutt portal, go down into the utility corridor, and blow up the tank. Ampert is assigned to help him. Haymitch protests, but BT insists. Ampert's reaping was designed for him to die, and BT hopes at least his son's death will be swift and meaningful. He tells Haymitch he must light the explosive himself. Haymitch replies he can use the striker from Lenore Dove, as long as he can find a rock. BT's time runs out, but before leaving, he warns Haymitch not to reveal the plan to anyone. The next morning, they agree on a cover story for Lulu's sudden appearance, claiming the Capitol miraculously saved Luella, though at the cost of her mental stability. They notice Lulu often tugs on her ear, and Mags and Wyris deduce she likely has an earpiece, allowing the Capitol to feed her lines and monitor conversations. They all agree to be careful what they say in her presence. At training, Ampert tells Haymitch that BT sees District 9 as vital for their alliance. Haymitch and Macely succeed in recruiting them, dubbing them as the Doves for their gentle manner and pale grey clothing. When Panache breaks one of their sunflower tokens, Macely repairs it, and Haymitch mentions a sunflower song Lenore Dove sings. Ampert later secures District 11's support, though District 5 joins the careers instead. During his private session with the game makers, Haymitch considers that they likely saw the footage of his outburst after Luella's death. He decides the best tactic is to act like a selfish, reckless troublemaker who only wants to return home rich and famous. He plays the role convincingly, hoping he came across as unpleasant, but determined. He submits his token for inspection and rejoins the others. When the training scores are announced, the careers earn between 8 and 11. District 11 earns similar high marks. The rest of the newcomers manage between 4 and 7. Wyatt and Macely both score 6, Lulu receives a 3, and Haymitch is given only a 1. Chapter 12. Haymitch worries his low score will ruin his chances with sponsors, but Macely reassures him that at least he got the game maker's attention. The next morning, he retrieves his necklace and this time lets Macely examine it. She calls it beautiful. Haymitch points out she has a covey pin waiting for her at home. She admits she never wears it because mockingjays are half mutt. Haymitch argues they could instead be seen as symbols of defiance. She promises she'll reconsider wearing it, if she survives. Macely then confides that Lenore Dove dislikes her, because she knows a secret and resents being at her mercy. She hints it has to do with the orange paint on Lenore Dove's fingernails during the mayor's birthday, but refuses to say more unless Haymitch trades one of his own secrets. Reflecting on their tokens, Haymitch realizes that with Wyatt's zinc coin and the copper flower on one of Macelee's necklaces, they could build a potato battery inside the arena. Drusilla arrives to prepare them for their interviews with Caesar Flickerman, their last chance to impress before the games. Lulu goes first, but only states her name and district. When Drusilla shakes her, she suddenly screams, "You're murdering us, you're murdering us." The others explain who she really is, and Mags takes her away. Wyatt follows, promoting himself as an oddsmaker who understands the other tributes. Macelee takes the stage next, mocking capital fashion and aiming to be remembered rather than admired. Finally, it is Haymitch's turn. His plan is to lean into his low score and rebel reputation, but Drusilla insists he'll do better presenting himself as charming, yet naughty. A rascal rather than a rebel, more entertaining and less threatening. Just as he's about to practice, his prep team bursts in with bad news. Magno is sick, and they have no costumes ready. Proserpina and Vitus panic, while Macelee teases them, which amuses Haymitch and Mags. They prepare to go in their training clothes, when suddenly, a young woman with lavender hair arrives, carrying stacks of clothing, asking brightly if they're ready for the big day. Chapter 13. The woman is warmly welcomed and introduced as Effie Trinket, Proserpina's famous older sister. Effie is cheerful, talkative, and clearly believes in capital propaganda. She brings clothing preserved by their great-aunt Messalina, sharp black tuxedos and suits for the boys, sleek black dresses for the girls. After complimenting them all, Haymitch reflects that maybe the Trinkets aren't cruel, just oblivious. Effie and Macelee work together to finish the group's makeup before they leave for the interviews. On her way out, Effie drops her brushes, and Haymitch helps her pick them up. She thanks him, he thanks her for the clothes, and she replies that they deserve to look beautiful tonight, calling them all very brave. In the green room, BT rushes to Haymitch, explaining that he replaced the cord on Ampert's token with a fuse and rigged District 9's sunflowers with explosives. He starts to mention he altered something else, but they're cut off. On stage, Caesar Flickerman begins by recapping past games. He points out that the 10th was significant for introducing betting, sponsors, and drones, but Haymitch notices he leaves out the fact that it was the only year a tribute from District 12 ever won. The interviews begin. The careers try to present themselves as superior, calling the newcomers weak, but the attempt fails. The newcomers come across as sharp, articulate, and united, especially when several tributes describe the strengths of Ampert's alliance. District 12 goes last. Macelee earns laughter by poking fun at capital fashion. Wyatt impresses with his calculations and predictions. Lulu unsettles the crowd with her behavior, until Caesar asks what the newcomers will do once they defeat the careers. She points into the audience, crying out, "You'll murder us, before collapsing. Haymitch suspects she is being drugged. After Lulu is carried away, Haymitch takes the stage. He swaggers with sarcasm, telling bootlegging stories to appear mischievous and fun, while mocking the careers and praising the newcomers. When Caesar asks about his low score, Haymitch calls it a badge of honor, saying it takes a special kind of troublemaker to earn a one. After the interviews, Plutarch escorts Haymitch, Macelee, Wyatt, and Lulu to his manor for extra filming. When he gets Haymitch alone in the conservatory, Plutarch admits he is not the only one who wants to oppose the capital. He hands Haymitch a phone, and reveals Lenore Dove is on the line. Chapter 14. Lenore tells Haymitch she has been arrested for singing seditious songs in public, including the hanging tree, but will be released the next day. Overcome with guilt for the trouble she has caused him, she tries to apologize. Haymitch insists she promise never to deliberately do something that will get her killed. They pledge to see each other again in her meadow, and before the line goes dead, Lenore vows she will love him forever, like her geese, who mate for life. Plutarch, seeing Haymitch reeling from the call, shares two vital pieces of intelligence. The arena's sun aligns perfectly with the real sun, meaning Haymitch can always determine which way is north, and the mutation portals will be hidden behind berms of flowers. Though wary of Plutarch's motives, Haymitch chooses to remember the information. Plutarch then brings him back to the group to film propaganda clips where they mock the careers as wannabe capital elites. That evening at dinner, Haymitch informs Macely and Wyatt that he intends to face the arena alone. The Capitol is targeting him, and he refuses to put his friends, or any of the newcomers, in the line of fire because of his choices. Chapter 15. On the morning of the games, Haymitch wakes to the knowledge that Macely and Wyatt are still angry with him for abandoning the alliance. As a small gesture of peace, he offers Macely the packet of battery-making supplies BT gave him. Wyrus and Mags deliver an emotional farewell to the 4 tributes, after which Drusilla loads them into a van. They are injected with tracking devices before boarding a hovercraft, placed opposite the tributes from District 11. When Lulu notices woven grass flowers around one of the girls' necks, she begins singing a District 11 harvest song. Surprised that someone from District 12 knows it, the 11 tributes encourage her to continue, and Haymitch, Macely, and Wyatt explain her true identity. Once the hovercraft lands, the tributes are separated and led to individual holding rooms. Before parting, Haymitch, Macely, Wyatt, and Lulu share one final group embrace. Haymitch changes into District 12's black arena uniform, and Effie, visibly nervous, arrives to check on him. She places his token on the outside of his shirt at Snow's insistence. Haymitch asks her to return the token to Lenore if he dies, and she promises she will. Effie then guides him toward the launch tube. When the platform rises, Haymitch emerges into a picturesque arena, a meadow surrounded by forest, overlooked by a snow-capped mountain. Its beauty immediately makes him distrustful, it feels too perfect to be safe. At the gong, he bolts north, snatching a backpack, a knife, and a spear on his way out of the cornucopia. 18 cannons sound in the distance, signaling the heavy losses from the bloodbath. Stopping once he has put distance between himself and the chaos, Haymitch inspects his backpack. Inside are 2 gallons of water, a hammock, binoculars, 12 apples, 12 eggs, and 6 potatoes. He feels a flicker of joy at the potatoes before remembering he gave the battery-making kit to Macely. In a smaller pouch he finds coin-sized tablets he assumes are charcoal. Venturing into the woods, he encounters his first berm of flowers but chooses to keep heading north without investigating it for mutation portals. The forest is overflowing with fruit, making him suspect his pack might be a capital trick. He debates discarding it but ultimately holds on. Reaching a stream, he stoops to drink, only to watch in alarm as a rabbit approaches the water, sips, and instantly collapses dead. Chapter 16. Haymitch realizes that the stream water is poisoned. Wishing he had an antidote, he remembers his Mormor once saying that charcoal tablets could cure nearly any stomach ailment. Using this knowledge, he manages to recover. He recalls Mags's advice about finding clues within the arena and concludes that every natural source here is tainted, which explains why the game makers provided food in the packs. 2 more cannons sound, and he assumes others fell victim to the poisoned water. Though he tries to keep moving north, he still feels weak and takes shelter in a blueberry bush to let the sickness pass. When night comes, the anthem displays the fallen. Haymitch counts 4 careers and 16 newcomers among the dead, and he is devastated to see Wyatt's face among them. For a fleeting moment, he hopes Ampert managed to take the sunflowers from the District 9 tributes before their bodies were retrieved by hovercraft. He falls asleep soon after. He wakes to find a rabbit watching him and cautiously offers it a piece of apple. Relieved when the animal survives, he realizes the fruit must be safe to eat. Not long after, he hears a whisper urging someone to find Haymitch, and discovers Lulu has located him. When he asks who directed her, she points to her earpiece and answers, "Murderers." Uneasy, Haymitch questions her about the others and learns the careers and newcomers have gathered on the mountain. Together they walk, and Haymitch searches for a good stone to use with his striker, pulling several from the stream until he finds one that works. Later, when Lulu falls asleep, Haymitch examines the berms. Each is marked, and he soon comes across one filled with gas plants, which reminds him of Lenore Dove demonstrating how they ignite near a flame. When Lulu awakens, they continue forward until she becomes excited by a berm of bee balm, inhaling the scent deeply. Haymitch realizes too late that it is also poisonous. She begins to bleed and convulse violently, and despite his desperate attempts, he cannot save her. Stricken, he finally cries out, "Enough, she is not your plaything," before ripping out her pump. Chapter 17. The canon confirms Lulu's death. Leaning close, Haymitch whispers into her ear, addressing the unseen audience through her earpiece, "You did this to her. This is who you are, murderers." A hovercraft soon arrives to claim her body, but Haymitch instinctively lifts her and carries her into the forest instead. Fear grips him at the thought that such defiance might bring retribution upon his family. Suddenly, a swarm of butterflies descends, stinging him painfully. Realizing this is punishment for making a spectacle with Lulu's corpse, he drops her body and runs. He stumbles into a berm of gas plants and ignites them to ward off the mutts. To turn this into an opportunity, he feigns rage and follows the swarm back to their source, locating the berm with the mutt portal. Before it seals, he wedges a branch inside, deliberately leaving it cracked open. Exhausted and sore, he climbs a tree to rest for the night. The anthem reveals one more career dead in addition to Lulu. Haymitch dozes until a parachute arrives bearing bread, cheese, grape juice, and a wine glass. Using his binoculars, he scans the area and eventually spots Ampert in the distance carrying 2 sunflowers. They reunite, and Ampert reveals that Wyatt died protecting Lulu, while Macely has been missing since the bloodbath. He then requests Haymitch show him the woods, supposedly so the other newcomers know it is safe. Haymitch understands the real purpose is for the audience and, more importantly, to confirm whether he discovered a mutt portal. Playing along, he takes Ampert to the butterfly berm. Ampert silently notes the branch holding it open but says nothing. Later, Ampert naps while Haymitch steels himself for his plan to ignite the tanks. Accepting that he will likely die, he clings to a faint hope that Ampert might survive. Chapter 18. As night deepens, Ampert announces he will remain there for the benefit of the viewers. He pretends he is preparing to snare a rabbit, but in truth, he unwraps his token to reveal a black fuse, winding it around his hand and slipping the blasting cap into the coils. He then offers Haymitch a sunflower to remember the 9s, ensuring that both of them now carry explosives. While Ampert sleeps, Haymitch waits for the right moment, reflecting on the people he loves and silently saying goodbye. At midnight, when only the game makers are likely still watching, he lights a branch and wakes Ampert. Quickly, Ampert hands him the fuse and explosive, whispering that he will have 60 seconds. Holding the torch, Ampert watches as Haymitch pries open the berm with his spear and descends a utility ladder into a cramped corridor. He moves in what he hopes is a northward direction, secures the charge to a water tank, lights it, and flees. Climbing back up, he is ambushed by a swarm of genetically engineered bat mutts with razor-like claws. Ampert throws him the torch, and Haymitch fights desperately while the tank begins to rupture. The flooding forces Haymitch upward, and he barely reaches the surface alive. Returning to their camp, he cannot find Ampert. In his search, he stumbles upon a horrifying scene, carnivorous mutt squirrels tearing Ampert apart. Haymitch fights them, but notices they ignore him entirely. The creatures are programmed to kill only Ampert. Abruptly, they all retreat, leaving behind nothing but bones. Furious, Haymitch savagely attacks the arena itself. The structure begins to glitch, and suddenly the artificial dome gives way to the real sky. Overjoyed, Haymitch dances and sings a rebellious song he once learned from Lenore Dove, exulting in the thought that the capital's control has been broken. But his triumph is fleeting. The illusion resets, the sky flickers back, and moments later, the mountain erupts violently, spewing deadly molten gold. Haymitch braces himself for what feels like certain death. Part 3, The Poster. Chapter 19. Haymitch is crushed when he realizes the arena wasn't destroyed, only damaged. Overwhelmed with despair, he curls up on a tree branch, remembering Lenore Dove's poem about names. When morning comes, he notices a faint humming sound and suspects it's coming from the generator BT once mentioned, the one located just outside the arena. Thinking of the explosive sunflower still hanging from his neck, he decides he has to try to escape and destroy the generator. He makes his way to the edge of the forest, where he finds a towering hedge covered in holly berries. It forms a V shape and stretches endlessly in both directions. Haymitch tries to force his way through, but becomes disoriented in its maze-like passages. Just as he's about to hack his way out, a rabbit appears, and he follows it to safety, only to stumble right into the careers. In the fight that follows, he manages to fend off two of them before finding himself face to face with Panache. Panache quickly disarms him and prepares to kill, but at that very moment, a dart strikes Panache in the throat, killing him instantly. Chapter 20. It is Macaulay who fired the dart, and together they decide to form an alliance. Not long after, 3 cannons fire, and Haymitch is shaken by the weight of having killed 2 people, even if it was in self-defense. Macaulay notices his injuries and tends to him with a first aid kit she says she scavenged from a dead career. They agree to pool their supplies, and Haymitch surprises her by producing the wine glass of grape juice, remembering her earlier comment about preferring proper utensils. When the anthem plays, they learn only 10 tributes remain, 2 careers and 8 newcomers. A parachute arrives with a container of bean and ham stock soup, which Haymitch interprets as Mags's way of telling them they aren't alone. The two risk building a fire, taking turns to keep watch, and share a tender moment of solidarity. Haymitch calls Macaulay his sister before drifting to sleep. Later, he wakes and takes over her watch. Convinced he has to reach the generator beyond the hedge, he tries to craft a rain catcher with the top. When Macaulay wakes, she laughs at his attempt, and together they make a better one using a shard of the wine glass. Macaulay suggests searching the cornucopia or tracking down the other newcomers, but Haymitch insists on moving north, though he keeps his real intentions secret. First, they search for the career's stashed packs, which were likely hidden before they ambushed him. They find the supplies, including a blowtorch, then return to the hedge. Instead of following the paths, they try cutting through directly, but the holly berries reveal themselves to be swarms of disguised ladybugs that latch onto their skin. Chapter 21. The two manage to rip the bugs off each other, but both lose a lot of blood in the process. They realize the game makers are deliberately keeping them away from the hedge. Rain begins to fall, and they use their tarps to collect water. Deciding to return to the cornucopia to search for food, they are soon drawn to a male scream. Since the remaining careers are female, they know it must be a newcomer. They rush to help and discover 3 newcomers in agony, their bodies pierced with long spikes, while a massive porcupine mutt the size of a bear looms nearby. Together, Haymitch and Macaulay drive the mutt away, but the 3 tributes die from their wounds. Macaulay tells Haymitch that one of them must win, in order to become the worst victor in history by refusing to play into the capital's control. Haymitch remembers his father's words about not letting the capital decorate their posters with their blood, and the two seal a pact with a pinky swear. That night, the anthem confirms only 5 tributes remain, Haymitch and Macaulay, the careers Silka and Marit, and Welly, a young girl from District 6. They plan to search for Welly the next day. Macaulay takes first watch and sings an old children's song about a ladybug flying home to its burning house. Haymitch laughs at the hedge reference, but the song sparks in him a new idea for breaking through the maze. Chapter 22. Haymitch decides to use the blowtorch to burn through the hedge until he reaches the generator, and hopefully destroy it as well. Out loud, he tells Macaulay they should return to the hedge because he has thought of a way to turn it into a weapon for the next poster. Macaulay quickly realizes his plan is meant to defy the capital and agrees to follow him. Suddenly, the remaining careers ambush them, forcing Haymitch and Macaulay to flee with Silka and Marit in pursuit. The 4 of them stumble upon 3 game makers leaning over a berm of flowers. The game makers threaten them for trespassing, and in response Marit and Macaulay kill the officials. As they pause, a hovercraft appears and drops a bomb into the clearing. It explodes in a cloud of dirt and gas. Haymitch grabs Macaulay, and they run through the woods. Macaulay scolds him for freezing instead of fighting back against the game makers, and Haymitch apologizes. Once reconciled, they return to the hedge. Haymitch lights a branch on fire and tells Macaulay to fend off any ladybugs. They burn a path through the swarm and arrive at the edge of a cliff, a sheer 100-foot drop. Below lies the generator, nestled among jagged rocks. Haymitch is both awed and frustrated by its proximity yet inaccessibility, declaring to Macely that they've reached the end of the road. Chapter 23. Haymitch feels disheartened to encounter yet another dead end. Macely urges him to leave, but Haymitch insists on staying, reasoning that this area is no longer part of the arena. He figures if the game makers want him dead, they'll have to chase him into the real world. They briefly discuss separating after eating, since the dwindling numbers make confrontation unnecessary, but both hesitate to part ways. Macely goes to get their food while Haymitch waits, kicking a rock off the cliff. The rock bounces back, revealing a force field around the generator. Suddenly, Macely screams. Haymitch rushes to her and finds her being attacked by lethal tropical birds. He holds her as she dies, and she locks her pinky around his, honoring their promise. In grief, he takes her copper flower necklace as a memento and sits in stunned sorrow as a hovercraft carries her away. He calls her his sister one final time. Later, Mags sends him strawberry ice cream and coffee to stir memories of Macely, and Haymitch breaks down crying. After gathering his thoughts, he prepares to return to the hedge. Checking his supplies, he finds the battery-making kit he had given to Macely before the games. That night, the anthem plays, signaling that Marit is also dead. Haymitch concludes that he and Silka are being spared for now, likely because they didn't kill any game makers. He decides to find Welly instead of returning to the hedge right away. Hearing the sound of a bell, he remembers that Welly's token is a bell. Following the sound up a tree, he finds her near starvation. Haymitch gives her water, since she's too weak for solid food, and builds a small battery out of a potato and Macely's copper flower. The faint light makes Welly smile. He ties both of them to the tree for safety. Later, a parachute arrives with pudding and chocolate candies. Hearing Silka crying at the base of the tree, Haymitch drops down some chocolates to her in a small gesture of solidarity. Chapter 24. When Haymitch wakes, he notices black residue on his hands, the same substance that had clung to him when he lit the fuse at the water tank. Remembering Beatty's hint about altering another tribute's token, he realizes Macely's copper flower is also a fuse. He begins to form a plan, one that would symbolically destroy the arena by detonating the cornucopia, the heart of the games. A horn of plenty for the few, desperation for the many, destruction for all. His hope is to lure Silka there, so Welly can live, even if he and Silka perish in the explosion. Before he can act, he knows Welly needs food. He hides her and searches for kindling. While searching, a parachute drifts down, delivering milk in a pitcher identical to the one he drank from in Plutarch's library when Snow was ill. He instantly knows it's a trap. Bringing it back would appear kind, but the milk is almost certainly poisoned. Bitterly, he reflects that he and the other tributes are nothing more than Snow's puppets, mere propaganda. Just then, a cannon sounds. Haymitch rushes back, only to find Silka clutching Welly's severed head. In that moment, he understands that neither of them will survive. Determined, he prepares for their final fight, thinking, neither of us is going home. I will kill her, and Snow will kill me. These games will have no victor. The two clash in a brutal struggle and retreat to the cliff. Haymitch is badly wounded, and as Silka hurls an axe, it strikes the force field, rebounds, and kills her. Summoning his last strength, Haymitch lights the fuse and hurls it at the generator, ignoring the voices urging him to stop, before everything goes black. Chapter 25. Haymitch awakens delirious, stitched together and hooked to medical tubes, only to pass out again. The next time he wakes, he's alone in the tribute apartment, a pump in his chest identical to the one Lulu had. 4 days, he lives on nothing but bread and milk from the fridge, his mind racing with fear over BT, Wyrus, and Mags, terrified they're being tortured. The television replays old games. One night, he hears Lucy Gray Baird's voice singing, sees her bringing a young man on stage. Realization strikes him, District 12's only victor was Covey, and the man beside her is Snow. Panic floods him as he fears Snow will go after Lenore Dove to get to him. Eventually, Effie Trinket arrives with the prep team and peacekeepers to prepare him for the victor's ceremony. Shackled, he's taken beneath the stage. Effie refuses to leave his side, a gesture that quietly moves him. He glimpses Wyrus and Mags, both battered and broken, Mags even confined to a wheelchair. They cannot stand with him. On stage, the Capitol greets him with thunderous applause. Caesar Flickerman presents a neatly edited recap, painting Haymitch as nothing more than a reckless fool, erasing his defiance and the sacrifices of his allies. The destruction of the generator is cut entirely, replaced by triumphant footage of him being declared victor. The camera pulls back to reveal the arena as a massive eye. The cornucopia forms the pupil, the meadow the iris, the forest and mountains the whites. The Capitol, always watching. Snow crowns him and whispers chillingly, "Enjoy your homecoming." Chapter 26. At the after-party, Haymitch is displayed like a prize inside a golden birdcage, admired, mocked, scrutinized. Plutarch slips close enough to tell him Lenore Dove was never released, and despair floods him. 4 days, he endures humiliation, knowing the only way to protect those he loves is silence. On the final day, the pump is removed, and Haymitch is sent home. The train carries him alongside the coffins of Macaulay, Wyatt, and Luella. On the way, he reflects on 12's only other victor and the haunting lyrics of the hanging tree. At the station, horror awaits him. His home is burning, his mother and Sid trapped inside. He fights desperately to reach them, but Burdock and Blair restrain him as Asteroid forces sleep syrup down his throat. He wakes in Luella's family home. The next day, the district holds a funeral for all the dead, his mother, Sid, Luella, Macaulay, Wyatt, and Wyatt's father, who hanged himself. Haymitch sees merrily, Macaulay's twin, and for a moment thinks she is his lost friend. Burdock sings the old There Before, and the people raise a 3-finger salute in mourning. Breaking away from the mourners, Haymitch understands the truth. Snow orchestrated the fire. Later, he is taken to his new house in the victor's village, but he slips out at night, determined to find Lenore Dove. In the meadow, he finally does. They embrace, and Haymitch gives her a gumdrop, thinking it safe. Too late, he recognizes the color, the exact shade of the rose Snow wore at his victory ceremony. Lenore Dove dies in his arms, but not before making him promise, there must never be another reaping. Chapter 27. Haunted by nightmares of Lenore Dove's death, Haymitch is consumed by her poem about names. He drives away Hattie, Burdock, Blair, and Asteroid, too broken to let anyone near. Though he yearns for death, her promise keeps him alive. He drowns himself in sleep syrup and alcohol, obsessed with finding her grave. Burdock eventually leads him to the Covey's resting place, where Haymitch buries the striker at her headstone and begs for release from his vow. But his drinking only worsens. One day, he stumbles across messages painted in orange. No capital, no hanging tree. No capital, no reaping. He knows it is Lenore Dove's signal, her final command. He is condemned, but also guided. He must resist. Effie and the prep team return to prepare him for the victory tour. Plutarch introduces Effie as District 12's permanent escort. Later, Plutarch takes Haymitch to a secluded attic in the Justice Building, the only place free of Capitol surveillance, and quietly invites him into the rebellion. He tells Haymitch that one day, someone like him, but luckier, may succeed in toppling the Capitol. Disillusioned and broken, Haymitch returns home, sinking further into alcohol and isolation. Still, he keeps the news on constantly, searching for signs, holding on to one purpose: to honor Lenore Dove by plotting to end the reapings. Epilogue. Years later, Haymitch still dreams of Lenore Dove, though now she no longer comes to him angry, nor dying. He takes it as forgiveness. He knows he kept his promise, helping the rebellion. But she will not let him join her yet, not while he still has family to care for, Katniss and Peter among them. He remembers the first time he saw Katniss as a little girl, her 2 braids reminding him of Luella, inspiring the nickname Sweetheart once he became her mentor. At first, he resisted letting Katniss and Peter into his world, but in time he realized, the heart opens when it has known love. Slowly, he begins to share the stories of those he lost, Katniss's parents, his own family, Macaulay, and Lenore Dove. One day, Katniss brings him goose eggs, and Peter builds an incubator, so Haymitch can raise geese in Lenore Dove's memory. Finally, Haymitch finds peace. He knows that, like the geese, his bond with Lenore Dove is eternal. Something the capital could never, and will never, take away. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this book summary, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more summaries. Do you have any thoughts or questions? Drop them in the comments below.